In chaotic, painful, and agitating fashion, the Michigan State Spartans lose to the Boston College Eagles 23 to 19. It was a night where Michigan State outgained Boston College by close to 100 total yards. They controlled the clock, had 5 more first downs, and were able to limit a typically strong Boston College rushing attack. And were even able to get pressure on Thomas Castellanos, nearly force a fumble from him. Will force a fumble from him, just not recover it. And give him a season low by a mile 17.5 QBR. And they still lose in what looks to be one of their now easier games of the regular season. Illinois looks great. Indiana is on the rise. Rutgers is just bullying people at the lines of scrimmage. Ohio State and Oregon are top 10 teams. Michigan is top 15. Iowa, I would say, is top 20, could be top 15 if they get things shored up in the secondary and McNamara plays with greater consistency. And that right there is 7 out of their remaining 8 games, with Purdue looking like the only easy contest. All 7 of those teams I named could be better than Boston College, and most of them are at minimum on the same level. Obviously, Ohio State, Oregon, I would also say Michigan and Iowa are above Boston College. It's a very tough schedule. This was a must-win game, and Michigan State just couldn't get it done for a variety of reasons, mostly interceptions. And we'll get into all of that here on College Football with Sam. Welcome back, fellow football fanatics. But before we get into that, I want all of you, yes, you watching, to like, subscribe, to click the notification bell, to comment your reaction and analysis and thoughts down in the comment section, to share the video around to other Michigan State fans, Boston College fans, Michigan fans, Ohio State fans, fans in the Big Ten Conference, or fans all across the country who, whether they root for the Big Ten or not, the SEC, like just people who care about college football. If you know anyone like that, send this channel to them. I am 100% certain they will like it, or at least want to engage with it. College Football with Sam prides itself on being the best Big Ten football channel, and we aspire to become the best college football channel. The Big Ten holds a special place in my heart, so especially since we're covering Michigan State here, just do those things: like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you'll get notified when we release new college football content, and you can help us grow our channel to 20,000 subs, which I'm hoping we hit in this next week or two, and we'll have a giveaway to celebrate that. If you also want to support the channel, check out my Patreon page via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment, and also join our Discord server. Again, links in the description and the pinned comment, and we talk about college football 24/7 on that Discord server. But yeah, this was a tough pill to swallow for Michigan State fans, for Jonathan Smith and his staff, for people who admire Aiden Chiles. Like, that almost sounds weird. I'm not saying that he's a bad person. Far from it. What I'm saying is when you throw 0 touchdowns and you throw 3 interceptions, and many of them are boneheaded, and by throwing no touchdowns, you don't get Chiles' ceiling, but you absolutely get his floor. I mean, whoa. He certainly has the potential to be one of the Big Ten's best quarterbacks, maybe the best quarterback in the Big Ten in a year or a few years, but right now, his floor is just way too low. Way too low. I mean, Davis Warren, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions against Arkansas State, got him benched. This type of performance typically gets you benched. Now, I don't think Aiden Chiles should be benched. He has way too much upside, and he's shown before in some games that he can help you win. But this was an ugly performance from him and Michigan State's offense, and really the team as a whole. Michigan State was pretty disciplined in penalties. This was their most disciplined performance in relationship to penalties of the entire season, only 3 for 25. But they had 4 turnovers, a K'Ron Lynch-Adams fumble inside of their own 10 and a kickoff return, which I know the ball is wet, it was raining, but you got to take care of the ball. And then obviously Chiles throwing the 3 picks. That's why MSU lost, because Boston College was +3 in the turnover battle, and they're coached by Bill O'Brien. So they're not going to somehow fumble away a game when they've recovered more fumbles and also intercepted the ball more than the other team, because they're well coached. And you see that reflected in the statistics, in the broad strokes. When you look at the forest, and we'll talk about the trees and further details here in a few minutes, but I just want to spend some time, like I always do, looking at the forest, looking at the environment for what it is, and then we'll dive deeper. Michigan State had more yards per play. They averaged 5.4 yards per play. Boston College averaged 4.9. However, you look at the points per play, and this matters a lot more than yards per play. Boston College had a 0.365 points per play. They basically gained about a third of a point every time they snapped the ball. Michigan State, on the other hand, was closer to about a fourth of a point every time they snapped the football. Now, Boston College did have fewer plays. They only had 59 plays. Michigan State, they had 68. So 9 more plays for the Spartans, and you see it in the fact that they had 368 total yards to BC's 292 and 21 first downs to BC's 16 and 32 and a half minutes of possession to BC's 27 and a half. Michigan State, yardage-wise and overall, was able to move up and down the field better than Boston College, and they were also better able to shut down Boston College's offense than Boston College was able to shut down their offense, with one exception. BC scored 2 touchdowns. Actually, they scored 3 touchdowns, kicked 1 field goal, just missed an extra point. They had far superior red zone efficiency. Michigan State scored 1 touchdown, 4 field goals, and had 4 turnovers to Boston College's 1. I tell you those statistics, just the red zone efficiency, the number of touchdowns each team scores, and the turnover margin, you know who's going to win. In fact, if I told you those things before the game, you probably all would have been surprised that Michigan State was leading this thing in the fourth quarter. And we'll get into why that is in a few minutes. It's actually for a very positive reason in relationship to Michigan State. If the Spartans are going to go bowling this year, the reason that I'll discuss after Aiden Chiles is a pretty big part to the success of the Spartans. But on this show, we like to save the best for last, and that's something that is a positive for the Spartans, a positive takeaway in a painful loss. But we like to get the ugly, the bad, anything that is not good out of the way. Start with the hard news, finish off with the good news. Aiden Chiles has to cut down on the turnovers. He was 17 of 35, threw 241 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt, and 3 picks. His receivers averaged 14.2 yards per reception. He did not even complete 50% of his throws. Yikes. That combined with the 3 turnovers and the fact that on the ground, yeah, he had 57 rushing yards and 9 carries, 22 yards, was good there. But Boston College got a sack on him. They were able to get some pressure. They had 4 passes defended, and that is in addition to the interceptions they had. So what's that all about? Aiden Chiles is a very talented player, and at Oregon State, he played phenomenally. I mean, right now, he has 4 touchdowns, 7 picks. Aiden Chiles at Oregon State, he didn't play nearly as much as he did at Michigan State, but he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and was completing a lot more of his balls. And he ran the football about as effectively. Now, I know why that is in large part. It's because Michigan State does not have even close to the team that Oregon State had last year. 2023 Oregon State would probably blow this team out or game control them. It was something, one of those 2 outcomes. It would not be a close game whatsoever, especially if Oregon State played at their peak last year. They were a very good team when they were on the ball. The turnovers have to stop because Ohio State's coming to town this weekend. Then after that, Michigan State travels to Oregon. Then they get a bye and host Iowa. And then after hosting Iowa, they travel to Michigan. That is a tough 4-game stretch. And if Chiles throws 2 or 3 interceptions in those games, you might as well chalk those up as losses. Because Iowa and Michigan and Oregon and Ohio State, all 4 of those teams look pretty darn good based off of their most recent sample. And also, they're based off of their toughest games, really. Series of games or just toughest game if they haven't played many tough opponents. They look pretty darn good at running the football. And Michigan with Alex Orji, they didn't turn over the ball on offense outside of a Donovan Edwards fumble against USC. And Iowa has been pretty good at not turning over the football. Oregon, similar thing, especially after their offensive line got healthy and with how they played against Oregon State. And Ohio State doesn't turn over the football that much either. A loss in the turnover battle, plus facing 4 teams in a row who are great to elite in the trenches, that is instant death if the turnovers are not fixed. And then after that, there are games against Indiana, Purdue, Illinois, Rutgers, no particular order, because the season's a third of the way over already. But those are your remaining 8 games, and Purdue looks like the only one that is extremely winnable. Looks like the only one right now. So the turnovers have to end. However, something I want to point out is that Michigan State has a great defense. They held Boston College to 292 total yards, 152 rushing yards. Boston College, and this isn't adjusted for sacks, no, but only had 3.5 yards per carry. And Turbo Richard and Trayshawn Ward did pretty well, but Ward had a long carry of 36, and Boston College with Drew Kendall has a really, really good offensive line. And the fact that Michigan State was able to get 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, get 2 passes defended, tackle well, and limit Boston College's ground game, I think shows that, look, they have a great defense here. Because Boston College has players on offense. They have pieces on offense. On the offensive line in particular, running back, quarterback, and an underrated set of receivers where they just spoon feed Castellanos the ball, and he likes to just grip it and rip it, fling it. I mean, that's what that final touchdown play was, wasn't it? Deep ball. Michigan State was probably expecting like a run because, well, they were in Michigan State territory and Boston College was running the ball all day. Busted coverage, poor tackling in pursuit by the safety, and Lewis Bond gets a 42-yard pass from Thomas Castellanos. It was a well-thrown ball, only where his receiver could get it based off of how the defense was playing. And boom, touchdown. And that was the game-winning touchdown. But holding Boston College to under 300 total yards, the amount of rushing yards and yards per carry that they gave, and Michigan State's defense turned it over 4 times. The offense turned it over 4 times and was anemic for much of the game, wasn't scoring touchdowns. Give it to the Spartan defense for not letting Boston College completely take advantage of all 4 of those turnovers. I mean, they deserve to be taken out for dinner, taken out for a steak, for something luxurious, because this defense, it was showcased in the game against Florida Atlantic. In the game against Maryland, they also had a pretty good performance, all things considered. This is not a near elite or elite defense, and great may be a little too far on my end, maybe a little bit too bold, but I'm okay with that because I think Joe Rossi's a really good defensive coordinator, and Michigan State obviously has talent up front. The secondary still looks to be a problem, but it's better than any Scotty Hazelton secondary ever, so that's progress. This defense is good. The only way Michigan State is going to win football games this season is ironically what Big Ten teams do to win football games. It's the classic Big Ten way. They ground and pound, they hold their own in the trenches, and they play good defense. And they use their kicker very liberally. Like, take points, take points, take points. If you feel like you can run on the opponent, yeah, run up the middle on a 4th and short. But Michigan State's passing offense, I know Nick Marsh was out. I think Jaron Glover was out. They had injured wide receivers. regardless of that, the throws and decisions that Chiles are making, and the state in part of this offensive line, which is suffering some injuries, the defense and also the rushing offense is the path to winning football games. But I think mainly the defense, which has shown that they are very capable of getting pressure, of stopping opponents behind the lines of scrimmage, even of forcing turnovers. Even that. I mean, Michigan State on the season, they have 15 sacks. They're nearly averaging 4 sacks a game. They have 4 interceptions, 6 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles. This defense is putting up good numbers. They are much better in the fundamentals than they were last year, the year before that, or even the year before that, or even the 2020 year. But COVID and defenses sucked. This is a good defense. I'm just going to leave it at that. And last but not least, I want to remind you all that this is Jonathan Smith's first year, and they are already better than they were in 2022 and 2023. Quarterback, obviously, you want better play out of Aiden Chiles than you got against Boston College. That is pretty redundant, to say the least. Pretty, obvious. Like, thanks, Captain Obvious. Of course, we don't want to throw 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. However, this is year 1. Everyone's new. The roster is new. Everyone on staff except for Courtney Hawkins is new. It's just you look at this team and they're 3-1. Yeah, it was a bad loss on the road to Boston College, but it was also a game where it cut down on the turnovers, and Michigan State showed in that game by not having the penalties that they had in prior weeks that they can grow. They can head in a positive direction. A few more things get fixed, this team can still go bowling. They can maybe pull off an upset against one of the better teams. And I say that because, A, good defense, pretty good trench play, I think, from Michigan State. And also, there are less possessions in a game than there were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it's easier now more than ever to control the clock. And Michigan State has shown that they're better at running the ball. They're better off actually playing kind of a conservative style of defense at times, and I think especially in Big Ten conference play, with their proclivity to turn it over through the air, than they are to try and be, ultra aggressive and sling the ball everywhere. Like, that worked against Maryland because it's Maryland, and their defense is probably not very good, or at least it's not great. That's not going to work against Ohio State. It's not going to work against Michigan. It's not going to work against Iowa. Maybe for a pass or two it will work against those defenses. But outside of that, no, absolutely not. So Jonathan Smith and his staff, they're one of the best in the country. They'll work with what they got. I expect this team to go more with that ground and pound that we saw a little bit against Boston College. If they were about 50-50 run pass, probably should have ran the football more. They averaged 3.8 yards per carry on the ground, the Spartans did, and Boston College does have a legitimate defensive line. So that's just a takeaway that I have, if I'm being honest. Again, this is Jonathan Smith's first season. At this point, turtle up, play good defense, play good special teams, run the ball, strategically use Chiles' athleticism and ceiling, and I say strategically because having him throw it 30 to 40 times a game might actually be a liability, even though it feels like it may give you a chance to win. That's just my takeaway, though, and my thoughts. And finally, my MVP for this game is Boston College running back Trayshawn Ward. The long touchdown, breaking 100 yards overall on 14 attempts, averaging 7.2 yards per carry. He's a really good running back. He showed that at Florida State and Kansas State, where he was, at the end of the season in those places, a backup. At Boston College, he's the starter, and he's doing a pretty darn good job right now. If Michigan State were to win this game, I would honestly say that the MVP probably would have been Nate Carter, because he got the single touchdown of the game. And a touchdown in a game like this, where the total is under like 50 points. Scoring touchdowns is really darn important, because you're making up anywhere from like a third or a little over a third to like a quarter of your points. It's crazy. And I think not Nate Carter, Aiden Chiles. I mixed up the names looking at the stat sheet. My bad. Even with the interceptions, Chiles accounting for the sole touchdown, throwing the football with an injured wide receiver core. Again, it's so difficult because he has such great upside, but such a low floor. And Michigan State's just going to have to deal with it and figure out how they can use him to maximize their chances to win. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman members and sponsoring this video and channel. Thanks to Chris Lane, Conolul OH, Ismar, Tyler Nye, and Jilton Cush for sponsoring this video as All-American members. And thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Shanaisha Cockrow for sponsoring this video and channel as all conference members. Sign up to support my Patreon page and get bonus content via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. And also, my merchandise store and Discord server are at those same areas, so check them out. Have a great day, guys. Go green, and go Eagles.